We have brought peace. Education is expanding. So, what are your worries?
Well, what are your worries? I don't think you have any, Mohammed, except for the fact that the voting hasn't gone as smoothly as many had predicted, certainly as the polls opened.
Indeed, Sohail, huge delays marked the first 2 hours of voting here in Kampala, Uganda, where polling materials like ballot papers and ballot boxes did not arrive on time in most polling stations. Just about 10 minutes ago, some polling stations in the city, and that's not very far from the central part of Kampala, had not started voting, and tempers were flaring up as people who'd waited there since 6 a.m. and beyond started complaining loudly that they had been kept in queues for a very long time.
Well, of course, we'll see how it continues over the day, but certainly in the lead-up to the elections, Mohammed, the campaign has been a very tough one, especially from opposition ranks.
Well, it's been a very much fought campaign. The opposition have been crisscrossing the country trying to sell their ideas. Kizza Besigye, a former personal doctor of President Yoweri Museveni, and who is his most formidable challenger, has been the most has had the most vibrant of campaigns, telling people that it's time for change and they should not allow Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to rule Uganda for another 5 years and take his rule to 30 years in power. Kizza Besigye has been has campaigned and stood against President Museveni twice before and lost. This is the third time he's facing President Museveni, and the opposition have a ploy here, Sohail. They want to divide the country's votes and ensure that President Museveni does not get the 50+1% vote he's supposed to get an outright win, and then they want to field one candidate against him in a run-up.
What sort of problem do the opposition face? Because they're not unified, are they? Whereas the incumbent president's party is very unified.
Yes, they are not unified at all. They are a divided house, but they say that's for a good reason. They want to scatter the vote so that President Museveni does not get an outright win in the first round. But also they are short of resources. They do not have the massive amount of resources the president's National Resistance Movement has. Also, they are facing somebody who's been in power for 35 years, a man who's credited with bringing stability to Uganda, something this country has not known in the first 25 years of its independence. In fact, during that period, they had 6 different administrations ruling Uganda, and Uganda has never had a peaceful transfer of power where there have been coups and counter coups every time somebody took power until Museveni came, and this is something he's really banking on to get as much votes as possible.
Well, of course, we'll be following events throughout the day as voting continues in Uganda with you, Mohammed. Thanks for joining us from Kampala. Massive winter flooding has washed away key roads and bridges in Pakistan's Swat Valley. And now, months on, the task of restoring the vital links is underway. AlJazeera's Kamal Haider has more.
Liaquat Ali and his 6 brothers used to sell radishes in Mingawara city. Now they are content to set up shop by this new access road. This is the only connection to the eastern side of the river Swat, made by army engineers over the riverbed. Their produce is washed clean, then decorated to attract passing customers. But business is not what it used to be.
Because the bridges are destroyed, we cannot get to the market. That's why we are here.
Military engineers are working round the clock to create a water channel for the river, so they can begin work on new bridges. The key challenge now is to ensure that the population living on the other side of the river have those bridges so that they can resume their normal lives. According to estimates, almost 90% of the bridges were damaged or washed away, affecting more than 1 million people. The army is set to place ready to assemble bridges donated by friendly countries after the devastating flood. The United Arab Emirates is also lending some assistance, rebuilding a major bridge here. The progress is monitored back in the UAE through these special cameras. The relief and rehabilitation phase is far from over, and one of the keys to reconstruction in Swat will depend on how fast vital infrastructure is restored. Kamal Haider, AlJazeera, Swat.
The death toll from Haiti's cholera epidemic is still rising, and while far from over, figures suggest the outbreak is being contained thanks in large part to an under-recognised team of doctors. Lucia Newman went to meet them.
The Artiboni, the only source of water for these villagers who use it to wash, bathe, and even defecate. The same river that is spreading cholera throughout Haiti. Here, where the cholera epidemic continues to cause havoc, we find a team of Cuban community health workers.
You can't drink the water without chlorine. Mix each packet with 10 liters of water.
These are the unsung heroes of Haiti's sanitary catastrophe. The 1,500 Cuban doctors and nurses who alone have treated 40% of the cholera victims in every corner of the country. Thousands of them right here in Mimbale, in the worst-hit region.
This month we're seeing between 15 and 30 cases a day, but no fatalities, thanks in part to our education and prevention work in the community.
Not that the Cuban doctors are new here. They are the backbone of Mimbale's community hospital, built before the earthquake as part of an international cooperation agreement. Dr. Armando Noahil delivered this baby just a few hours ago.
I'm the only obstetrician in this area. It's our busiest field, so I'm on call 24 hours a day.
The Cuban medical teams aren't in this country just for the emergency. In the 12 years that they've been in Haiti, they have treated more than 17 million cases. Most of them, in fact, in places where there are no Haitian doctors or other foreign doctors, for that matter, available. In this downtown hospital, 75-year-old Imen Fortune, who is virtually blind, waits patiently for her turn to have her cataracts removed.
I used to sell food and work, but now I am helpless without my sight.
It's a quick and simple procedure, but one which 51,000 Haitians who've had their sight returned by Cuban optometrists could not have afforded in their wildest dreams. It's all part of Cuba's medical missions program, started by Fidel Castro in 1998, a Cuban foreign policy move aimed at spreading goodwill, not just from, but towards the communist country. Whatever the political motivation, Cuba's long-term commitment here has made all the difference to millions of Haitians, accustomed to seeing most international aid organizations come and go. Lucia Newman, AlJazeera, Mimbale, Haiti.
Well, it was a headache that wouldn't go away, but a Chinese man should finally be feeling better after doctors removed the blade of the dagger which had been lodged in his skull for 4 years. Richard Martin has the story.
Li Fu had complained of headaches for years. These scans now show why. A 10-centimetre blade was lodged in his skull. The extraordinary thing is, he didn't know it was there. He'd had a fight with a robber, but he hadn't realised he'd been injured and he couldn't see a wound.
As time went on, I used injections to kill the pains in my head and ears. It's been 4 years already.
These pictures were released through China's state broadcaster CCTV.